Here's to the firefighters working this Labor Day, quickly knocking down a wildfire in the foothills. Here's to our politics guy, Marshall Zellinger, working the holiday weekend to lay out what is at stake in the November elections. Here's to the unofficial historian of the Big Thompson Canyon floods, who's making sure Colorado remembers.
That was my goal in life, to make sure that people are never forgotten.
And here's to all who have worked to make this state a better place. A word tonight about making sure they all get a fair deal. We're laboring today, but you kick back and relax, because this is next. The plume of smoke off I-70 today was unmistakable. It was scary, and thankfully it was short-lived. Firefighters have lifted evacuations in the area of I-70 and El Rancho in Jefferson County. Folks living in the Summit Ranch neighborhood are still under pre-evacuation, so ready to go if necessary. The holiday traffic coming down the hill saw the smoke along I-70 this afternoon. The view from Sky 9 shows the last of it smoldering under the trees. Firefighters have not said what they think started this. Foothills Fire Protection says they got 100% containment as of about an hour ago. Labor Day weekend is the traditional start of the run-up to Election Day. Things are kind of scrambled in this off year. Denver and Colorado Springs held their city elections this past spring. Just about every other city has their election for city leadership and ballot issues in November. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger gives us a look at what will be decided 2 months from now.
Every voter in Colorado will decide two issues in November. Proposition HH would reduce the increase in your property taxes for at least 10 years. You just have to give up your Tabor refund, which the state could keep longer than 10 years. II is about universal preschool funding. When voters approved the higher tobacco tax in 2020 to pay for preschool, the state underestimated how much it would bring in by $23 million. II asks your permission for the state to keep the $23 million instead of refunding it back to tobacco wholesalers and retailers and reducing the tobacco tax. Several metro area cities will elect new mayors in November. The requirement to get on the ballot is, well, if you're popular in your cul-de-sac, you could do it too. It only takes 25 signatures of registered voters to qualify for mayor in Arvada, Boulder, Broomfield, Commerce City, Fort Collins, Golden, Louisville, Thornton, and Westminster. It takes at least 50 signatures in Greenwood Village and Littleton. And Aurora and Centennial, they're stingy with 100 signatures. Denver, which held its mayoral election in May and June, required 300 signatures. Boulder voters will also consider a ballot issue to prioritize having the city remove tents, temporary structures, and propane tanks within 500 feet of a school or within 50 feet of a shared path. The city already has an ordinance banning these near parks and public spaces. The ballot issue adds schools and tells the city to make it a priority to enforce. A ballot issue in Fort Collins asks voters to raise their property taxes to fund affordable housing. Yes, in the same year homeowners got sticker shock from their property tax bills, Fort Collins voters will be asked to raise their mill levy to help build, operate, and maintain affordable housing. Douglas County Schools will ask its voters to raise property taxes too. The school district is seeking a mill levy override, with the money going to increase teacher salaries.
My favorite, somewhat obscure one is in Commerce City. There are 3 separate ballot issues to allow backyard chickens, backyard ducks, and backyard bees.
Wait, there's separate ones?
Separate issues, and I don't know what a backyard bee is. I know, like, one significant change happening in Boulder this year, ranked choice voting. There are 4 people running for mayor, and there will be no runoff election like Denver. Voters will bubble in a first choice and a second choice, and so on. And if no one gets more than 50% on that first choice, the person in last is eliminated, and everyone who voted for that last place person gets their second choice counted, and it goes on until there is a winner with more than 50%.
So you're only voting once. There's no runoff, so it's supposed to be less expensive that way. But this is alien to people. It's different to people.
Boulder has it. Broomfield has it, but they don't have more than 2 candidates in any race. Denver's going to consider it, but we'll see how it goes. Boulder has a few workshops that if you can show up to, one's at the JCC, I think another's at a library, and they'll teach you how to do it. And they've got some graphics online. They're doing, the outreach is there. It's just, when you get your ballot, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do?
We'll note that Denver Mayor Mike Johnson, during the campaign, we asked him what he thought of ranked choice voting or another method like that, and he said that he was interested in it, that he'd support a move in that direction. It wouldn't just be up to him. City Council and others would have to do it, but interesting. All right, Marshall, thank you. Starting this month, XL customers can expect to pay more for their electric bills, just not as much more as XL had hoped to make. Last month, the Public Utilities Commission voted to approve a nearly $97 million electric rate increase. That will up the average customer's bill just under $4 per month. Part of that money will pay Xcel to retire several coal plants over the next 8 years. The $97 million increase is much smaller than what Xcel was originally seeking. They'd asked for $312 million late last year. PUC is still considering changes that would limit Xcel's ability to recoup additional transmission costs not covered in that base rate. That could impact future price hikes starting in 2024. That's a conversation that will continue later this month. The Democrats at the state capitol who passed a law cracking down on Colorado's towing industry say state regulators are proposing to water down some of their consumer protections. So now the Democrats are asking a judge to delay the new rules from taking effect.
We've pointed out several instances where the proposed rules are inconsistent or contrary to legislative intent. So yeah, we would ask that the court either strike down the rules or hit pause on the proceedings.
The PUC regulates towing companies. They're currently drafting new rules and fines that would come in line with the state's new towing Bill of Rights that passed last year. But late last week, the Dems behind that legislation told the PUC they don't like several of these proposed changes. For example, the new law requires a tow company to release a vehicle if the owner pays either $60 or 15% of the tow bill. The PUC proposal would require the rest to be paid in a 30 to 90-day window. State legislators want a more open-ended timeline.
And we wanted to make sure that that there was flexibility so that a towing operator and an individual could figure out what the best payment plan for themselves would be.
Democratic State Senator Julie Gonzalez and other legislators have an issue as well with the PUC rules regarding tow notices on private property. They say the language being allowed by state regulators is too flexible. They want it to be more direct. PUC judge is expected to rule on the new regulations later this month. PUC is already looking at nearly 1,000 complaints against Colorado's biggest tow company, Wyatt's. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser revealed just last week that his office is also investigating Wyatt's. The Big Thompson Canyon has seen some of Colorado's deadliest and most destructive floods. A lot of what we know about those floods is because one woman made it her mission to preserve that history. As we come up on 10 years since the 2013 floods, our Mark Salinger introduces us to Barb Anderson.
At 84 years old,
84. I'm that old.
85.
Oh my gosh. Oh God.
Barb Anderson is right where she wants to be.
She is right beside me all the time.
The Big Thompson Canyon is home. While her house is now filled with the sound of her oxygen tank, the memories of what she's seen are clear.
So I've been home, yeah.
Barb survived the floods of 1976 and 2013. She made it her mission to remember those who didn't.
That was my goal in life, to make sure that people are never forgotten.
2 people were killed in the canyon in the 2013 floods that devastated the Front Range. 144 died in the Big Thompson flood in '76. We read their names and know their stories because of Barb.
My mom spent the next 22 years and still making phone calls. Her and others made phone calls to people, getting in touch with at least one member of all of the 144 that passed away.
From a list of those who died, decades worth of work led to books like these. Every victim paired with their story. Barb's daughter Tina still remembers what she lost in 1976.
And this is the picture of my best friend, little Teresa, right there.
Teresa was just 10 years old when she was swept away by the flood. Her body was never found. Yet her story and memory lives on in the books Barb published and memorial she helped create.
Not sure how many people realize just how much this consumed of my mom's life.
As much as the 2 floods took, they left behind so many memories.
I just want everyone to know how very special she is. Not just to me, but to families of 144 people as well.
Memories now preserved thanks to Barb.
I feel I have accomplished what I set out to make sure everybody could be safe.
I've spent quite a bit of time up in the last couple of weeks in the Big Thompson Canyon recently, just working on stories and looking back at the 10 years since the flood. Every single person that we interview up there has Barb's books as they share the stories of their loved ones who died. They're not just books for them, Kyle. They're stories that help keep those memories alive.
She truly has built a legacy that will live on. 144 lives lost. The first go-round of the history book said 145 people.
And then Barb got involved, and she was calling all of these people, hundreds, if not thousands of phone calls over 22 years that she was trying to find out who had died and who hadn't. She got a hold of one name who she was trying to find and could not find any family members. Eventually, she called a number, and the man who she thought had died picked up the phone. They revised that number from 145 to 144 because of the call she made.
We know because of her work. Wow. What a legacy. All right, Mark Salinger, thank you. Hey, got a note from the folks at the Longmont Humane Society over the weekend. They said that the more than $45,000 that you all raised through your latest Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign will make a huge impact for the animals there. Huge impact is what you do week after week here. Through 168 consecutive weekly campaigns, you have now raised more than $11 million for Colorado's nonprofits. We know there are more out there that could use our help. If you know of a nonprofit cause anywhere within the four corners of Colorado that could use our help, send me a note. I read each and every email that comes to next@9news.com. Students are working on science experiments that they want to send into space. But first, a lesson in gravity. And a Labor Day reminder that not every worker in Colorado gets a fair shake. That's next. Labor Day, of course, is the unofficial end to summer. So let's talk snow. Colorado's highest peaks get their first dusting this week. The storm system that's moving through Colorado today already dropped a few inches in Utah and in Oregon a few days earlier. So this could be us next. Temperatures forecast to drop below 35 degrees above 12,000 feet overnight. If this is our first bit of snow, it's actually late compared to the last 2 years when some peaks got their first snow in mid-August. Crispy Donkey, question for you. Are there some peaks that tend to get the first snow first, or is it really just like where snows come from? I know like early season snow, like Wolf Creek gets buried and sometimes Telluride gets buried, but do they tend to get snow first?
That's a really good question. It tends to go north to south. So generally speaking, our storm systems, like this one, the one that's spinning through Colorado right now, this storm system is coming from our north. As those systems kind of drop down, they bring in that cooler air. So generally speaking, it's Rocky Mountain National Park. You get up into the elk heads, the parks, the flat tops in northern Colorado. Those are typically the spots above 10, 11,000 feet where you'll see that first little dusting of snow. And this is that storm system that's spinning its way off to the north and east. Now behind it, again, don't get too excited. We're talking about maybe a dusting of snow above 11, 12,000 feet, as you just said a second ago, Kyle, but it's still a little bit significant. In the meantime, for us here in Denver, what it's going to do, it's going to really cool us on off. A little bit of kind of natural air conditioning after 4 straight days at 90 or above to start the month of September. Tonight, we drop back into the low 50s. It's going to be breezy, so keep that in mind. We did have that fire earlier on near El Rancho. Tomorrow, temperatures much cooler, though, 79 degrees for us. And then that 7-day forecast, temperatures mostly around 90 through the end of the week before we cool back down for the weekend and to the early part of next week.
Thank you, Chris. I can ask that man anything about the weather, and he's going to know the answer. So Colorado and Labor Day, go back a ways. 136 years ago, state legislators designated the first Monday in September as a day to honor workers. We were the second state to do that. We were behind Oregon, and we were 7 years ahead of the federal government. According to the Rocky Mountain News Archives, about 2,000 people showed up at Argo Park for the state's first Labor Day celebration in 1887. Look at these guys getting it on. They're with the Plumbers Union, and that looks to be a good time being had by all. This Labor Day, I think about whether all who work or want to work in our community are getting a fair deal these days. 2 recent conversations that we have had here come to mind. I think of the Coloradans who helped the state fight unemployment fraud by flagging illegal claims that were falsely made under their names. For their time and effort, and often it was quite a bit of time and effort, their own accounts got flagged, so that then when they later needed unemployment, when they earned it, they were left waiting and forced to jump through hoops. Doesn't seem like a fair deal. Also doesn't seem like the functioning unemployment system that Coloradans pay for and should receive. I also think of the migrants here in Denver, awaiting the processing of their asylum claims. They've told us all they want to do is work to provide for themselves and to provide for their families. They would prefer not to rely on the city of Denver for shelter, food, or other necessities. When they have been able to work, they tell us about employers refusing to pay them, essentially using their immigration status as blackmail. It's not a fair deal by any measure, even if the system itself is badly broken. But that's actually a challenge that we'll talk about more later this week.
We talked about gravity and microgravity, but seeing it in person is just so much better.
Students in Loveland hope to launch an experiment into space. First, though, they're going to try 100 feet in the air, because you got to start somewhere. The students at the High Plains School in Loveland are on a mission. They're putting together experiments on microgravity, and one of those experiments could end up on the International Space Station. It's not space ready just yet, but Loveland Fire Rescue helped it get off the ground.
Hey, come this way.
So we've been making preparations kind of over the summer.
Make sure that you stay behind the caution tape.
We had a fire department here and got to drop stuff. It was awesome.
It was the demonstration of microgravity for our High Plains Middle School.
Hi, my name is Pete Carlson. I am the science teacher at High Plains School. High Plains got the opportunity to connect with the Student Space Flight Experiment Project, SSEP, and one experiment will be sent up to the International Space Station. Real astronauts will get to use the experiment, and then it'll come back down. The kids will get to analyze that data.
I am so excited, and I just can't wait to see how this turns out.
I think it was like 105 feet. Definitely amazing.
Microgravity is a term that means a gravitational force way lower than the average of what we experience here on Earth.
And this force is the same for all objects regardless of their weight.
I used to live back in Texas a few months ago, so I've been to like NASA and I've been there before, so it's just like, oh my gosh, we get to do this awesome science experiment.
And then we dropped two 2-liter bottles. And if you rip the tape off the hole in the bottom of the bottle, it spills out, and then you drop the bottle. What should happen is that everything is traveling at the same speed, so the water no longer leaks out of the bottle. Probably like the best day of my life. I got to go up in the bucket on a fire engine and wear a hat.
The watermelon fell faster, got splattered with watermelon.
What they're going to learn, though, is things like writing proposals, the scientific method, how to do observation and inference.
We talked about gravity and microgravity, but seeing it in person is just so much better because you get to really experience it and take it in.
Happened to be in the front row, so I definitely have watermelon juice on my pants now.
I'm just so excited, and I am incredibly grateful to be given this opportunity.
And I got to wear a fireman's hat. Best day of my life.
The students and teachers won't find out which experiment will be picked to make that trip to space till next spring. Got your feedback here next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a beautifully quiet moment. Jim Leary sent us this photo from Littleton. A cyclist who apparently pulled off the bike trail to paint the South Platte came well prepared with the paints and the easel and the umbrella. That is a Colorado scene. If you see something that just feels like our state to you, snap a picture like Jim did, or paint one if you're so talented, and email it to next@9news.com. Note tonight from Jackie Stoffel, who writes, Kyle, don't change. I enjoy your reporting. Jackie, my failure to change will almost certainly be my downfall, but it also could be pretty entertaining between now and then. Don Valenti. Oh, did you just watch my earpiece break live on air? Did you see that? Holy cow. Don Valenti says, is that the seat cover from a 72 Pinto? It is not, but I'm glad you like it. And a tweet that says, Kyle, move the mint green jacket to the back of your closet. Milt, how close are we to the end of the show? Because I can't hear a thing. I haven't worn this since May of 22, so light rotation. And Milt's here with the countdown telling me we have 5 more seconds. Look at this. Even on Labor Day, we're well-staffed and happy. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Look at that. We got a live countdown at the end of the show. That's great.